This is an interesting machine I picked up a few days ago. I've just finished working on, and it's all been cleaned and serviced and is working really well. It solves an issue that was present in the early 70s when it came to magnetic sort of tape formats. Of course, you had your cassette tapes. They were the relatively newcomer. You had the 8-track cartridges, which was very popular, especially portably and in cars. And then you had the pre-recorded reel-to-reel tape, which is a long-established format by this stage. So the Japanese company Akai came up with an idea of being able to have an all-in-one unit that would play any of those three, which happened to be on the market all about the same time. I picked this unit up, as I said, a few days ago, and it's in almost immaculate condition. There's no marks around where the reel tables are. There's no scratches or anything. The capstan sleeve is here, which is to provide on the highest setting a tape speed of about 7.5 inches per second. It uses the crossfield Akai head system, and this is your track selector to listen to the various different tracks on the reel-to-reel. This is the cassette part. See the cassette buttons, and then this is the program selector for the 8-track, which is located just around the slide here. Also, it has built-in speakers with a speaker grill which is angled in this direction to project the sound towards you, and there's one here the other side. There's various outputs and inputs on the back. You have the power supply section, which is multi-voltage and also multi-frequency, and you also change the setting inside for the motor setting for the frequency change. Here's the serial plate, and of course this is the inputs and outputs at the bottom here. You have an RCA phono outputs, a DIN socket, a line high and low output switch, speakers to be powered by the internal amp, and a mute switch to turn the internal speakers on and off. So let's first of all demonstrate the cassette part. I'll just run through the controls. There's a power on button here, headphone socket, and in order to silence the speakers you press the button around the back. These are your meters. They're quite simple ones. You have a tone control for left and right, and then a volume control on the top of these two knobs here. There is an equalization setting for the reel-to-reel section at the top, which you set for the various tape speeds. This is not required to be set when listening to the cartridge or listening to the cassette deck, because that's automatic. And then you have your standard microphone inputs on the front. There's also a cassette counter and also a reel counter. And usually on this model, which is the X-2000SD, it has a tape counter. On a few of the other models, they are just a play-stop light. So when the tape gets to the end, it switches the machine into a stop mode, and the same for the cartridge. And this light would light up to tell you that it's reached the end of the cassette, but on this model it has a proper tape counter. So let's demonstrate the cassette. Turn it on. This is the automatic on and off for the lever here when it's playing reel-to-reel, so that when the lever drops and the tape reaches the end, the machine switches off, and that controls the off of the machine. So this has to be off in order for the motor to run for the cassette and for the 8-track. So the cassette you open up this way. As you can see, it's illuminated inside to show you the slot, and a bit unusually they load a bit like VHS tapes. And now we just press play. So much I want to do. Friends are telling me it's time that you broke through. I've been through the hard times. I'm searching so that's fast forward. That's rewind. You know, it's been a hard time from rock and roll. So that's the cassette, which works fine. You can also record onto cassette you can record onto cartridge and you can record onto the reel-to-reel from any of the input sockets on the back and the microphone sockets. And also it has a transfer setting which lights up the record light, and what that will do is transfer the reel-to-reel, a pre-recorded reel-to-reel, to either the cassette or the 8-track. You can't do anything else other than transfer tapes from reel-to-reel to cassette or 8-track. I think the idea being that you can change a pre-recorded reel-to-reel into a more portable format, either an 8-track or cassette, for your own sort of convenience. This is the program, function selector, so reel, cassette or cartridge. I had it on cassette. This is the record and playback and transfer switch, so at the minute it's on playback. If you wanted to record onto any one of the three, you slide it over to record and it locks in place when play is engaged, cartridge is inserted, or play is engaged on the cassette deck. So over to cartridge. The tape speed has to be on low in order to play back at the correct speed for cartridge and cassette. This is the program selector. On the side where the 8-track goes in, you have an auto stop feature and a continuous play. What that means is when it plays through 4 programs, it automatically stops at the end on program 4, or if you have it on continuous play, it'll play all 4 programs and just continue to do that. So that's the 8-track section. As you can hear, works very well. So I shall demonstrate the reel-to-reel section. So put on a blank take-up spool. I'll have to put the motor speed to high because that puts it in the 3 3/4 inches per second. Make sure that the equalization button is on 3 3/4. This machine will play 15.5 inches per second, or 15 inches per second I think it is, but requires a larger capstan sleeve and a smaller pinch roller, which was a optional accessory. So let's put the supply reel on. It's hard to do this with one hand, but I shall try. Right, thread the tape through. Now get it started. Reset the reel-to-reel counter, and now we change this over to reel. And if I put the automatic stop onto on, when the tape runs out and the lever drops down, the machine will switch itself off. So I'll put that into play. Just adjust the volume.
When I was young, I'd listen to the radio, waiting for my favorite songs. When they played, I'd sing along. It made me smile.
And it will fast forward. And rewind. And then when the tape drops off at the end, it should switch itself off. And there we are. powered off. Automatic selector off, put it onto cartridge, tape speed goes down to low, and then we'll play out the cartridge.